He sat at the corner booth, unreadable, untouched food in front of him, until she leaned down and spoke softly in Japanese. "Would you like tea, sir?" And for the first time in weeks, Daichi Sato looked up. If you're ready to hear the whole story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as crazy as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let's get into it. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and old ketchup. Ayana shifted her weight from one foot to the other, balancing a tray of half-empty mugs while trying to ignore the ache in her lower back. Her name tag had peeled at the edge, now reading simply, Ayan. Most customers didn't notice. The ones that did never asked. She moved table to table with practiced ease, offering sugar and smiles, both rationed. Between orders, she scribbled Japanese phrases on napkins, testing her memory, correcting her grammar. It was the only part of her day that felt like hers. "Why do you bother?" her coworker once asked, catching her reciting conjugations near the coffee machine. "Nobody tips for knowing extra." Ayana just shrugged. Some languages were learned to impress. Others, to survive. And some, like Japanese, she learned to remember who she was before life demanded she become invisible. A bell over the door jingled. She didn't look up at first. Just another lunch shift. Another face. But this one didn't move like the rest. He paused at the threshold, taking in the space slowly, deliberately, as if entering a temple, not a diner. Daichi Sato chose the corner booth without asking for a menu. He didn't remove his coat, despite the spring air outside. He didn't speak. Just sat, posture straight, hands folded in his lap, eyes unreadable. The waitress passed him 3 times. Never stopped. He reached for the glass of water on the table. It was chipped. He stared at it for a long time before setting it back down untouched. His phone buzzed. He didn't answer. Another message. Then another. The screen lit up with his assistant's name. He turned it face down. He had come to the city 3 days ago. A last-minute trip, no itinerary, no entourage. The press said he was here for business. But the truth lived somewhere quieter. Daichi Sato had buried his wife 6 weeks ago in Tokyo, with cameras flashing and shareholders watching. They called it a tragic loss and then moved on. He didn't. Couldn't. So he boarded a plane with no suitcase, no sleep, and one destination, anywhere but home. Ayana finally glanced toward the corner booth. She noticed the suit first. Then the silence. Then the expression, not cold, not rude. Just far. He wasn't checking a menu. He hadn't touched his water. He wasn't typing like the other businessmen who barked for espresso. He looked like a man sitting inside something heavy. "Anyone take corner booth yet?" she asked the hostess. Man hasn't said a word. Ayana nodded, picked up the pot of hot water and walked over. As she approached, he looked up. Dark eyes. Worn face. Older than she expected. Younger than he should have looked. She placed the pot on the table gently. Then, without hesitation, said, "Would you like some tea?" Everything stilled. Daichi blinked, not startled. Just disrupted. His mouth opened slightly, as if a breath caught. He didn't smile. Didn't nod. But his voice came low, gravel-soft. "Yes, please." It wasn't just the language. It was the way she said it. No accent. No hesitation. Not performative, familiar. Like she spoke it often. Like it wasn't a trick. He watched her pour, silent. She set the cup in front of him with 2 hands, a gesture of respect. Then stepped back. In the kitchen, her coworker raised an eyebrow. "You speak Japanese now?" "I've always spoken it." "Since when?" "Since it mattered." At the corner booth, Daichi took a sip of the tea. It wasn't perfect. But it was the first warm thing he'd felt in weeks. Have you ever been completely overlooked, until one person said the exact thing you needed to hear? Tell us what happened in the comments. He returned the next day. Same time. Same seat. Didn't need a menu. Didn't say a word when he entered. Ayana noticed before anyone else did. She poured the tea before he asked. Brought it over with the same quiet gesture. 2 hands, slight bow. She said gently, "Welcome back." Daichi looked up, slower this time. He nodded once. Thank you. Her co-workers whispered. That guy in the suit. The one who barely speaks. She didn't explain anything. Not about his grief. Not about his country. Not about the heaviness he carried like an extra coat. She just brought tea. And later, miso soup she'd made from home. Quiet acts. Unpaid. Unnoticed. Except by him. He stayed longer that day. Didn't use his phone. Didn't open the laptop he carried like a shield. He just sat, occasionally watching the room, more often watching her. The way she refilled cups without being asked. The way she lowered her voice for elderly customers. The way she seemed to vanish into the noise, until she spoke to him in his language. There, she became visible. She approached his booth during a lull. Refilled his cup without speaking. Then sat across from him for the first time, just for a moment. You're not from here, she said in Japanese. No, he replied. You. She smiled faintly. Born in Brooklyn. Raised by anime and subtitles. He chuckled, the first sound resembling laughter. It startled both of them. Most people don't try, he said. They speak louder. Slower. Or pretend I'm not there. I've been invisible too, she replied. Silence. A soft one. He looked at her directly. How long have you spoken Japanese? 10 years. Why? I liked the sound of it. And I didn't have a reason not to. He nodded. Then said something that didn't sound like a compliment, but stayed with her all night. Your Japanese is not perfect. But it's more respectful than most people's English. She blinked. Then nodded. And stood to leave. Before she turned, she said, same time tomorrow? Daichi tilted his head. Do you always offer reservations in a diner? No, she said. Only when someone looks like they haven't had a conversation in days. That night, Ayana pulled her old textbook from under the bed. She hadn't opened it in years. Half the pages were wrinkled. Notes in the margins. Vocabulary circled in red. She flipped to a blank space near the back. Wrote, Day 1. The man in the corner smiled today. In his hotel room, Daichi unwrapped the miso soup she'd packed in paper napkins. No restaurant name. No garnish. Just warmth. The taste hit like memory. Not perfect. But honest. The kind of food someone makes with hands that aren't performing. The next morning, he texted his assistant in Tokyo. I'm not coming back yet. Push my meetings. No explanation. Just the first decision he'd made for himself in months. The rain came down hard that night. Fast, slanted sheets against glass, turning city streets into rivers. The subway stalled. Cabs vanished. And the diner, for once, went quiet before closing. Ayana grabbed her bag and checked her phone. Power out at her apartment. She sighed, tucking her apron away. Behind her, Daichi stood near the door, coat over one arm. His driver had texted an hour ago, roads blocked. He wasn't going anywhere either. She turned to him. Looks like we're stuck. He nodded, expression unreadable. Do you live nearby? Too dark to walk home. He looked around. There's a noodle shop open late. 5 blocks up. Want to go together? She raised an eyebrow. You don't strike me as the eat outside type. I'm not, he said. But I don't want to eat alone. They walked in silence, side by side. The storm softened into mist. Traffic lights blinked over empty streets. She kept her hands in her coat pockets. He walked with his arms at his sides, palms open like he had nothing left to grip. The noodle shop was fluorescent and quiet. 2 elderly men played cards at a corner table. The cook barely looked up. They ordered in Japanese. He watched her do it, not just the words, but the posture. The ease. The dignity. You ever been to Japan? He asked once they sat. No, she said. Not yet. You speak like someone who's been corrected by a native speaker. I have, she replied. You. That pulled a breath of laughter from him. Real this time. The noodles came steaming. Ayana broke her chopsticks. So, she said between bites, you're rich. Why hide in a booth like a ghost? Daichi chewed slowly. I wasn't hiding, he said. I was unspoken. She tilted her head. I stopped speaking when my wife died. Ayana's chopsticks paused midair. He continued, voice low but sure. She passed quietly. I didn't. My country watched me cry in a suit too expensive for grief. She set her bowl down gently. I'm sorry, she said. Don't be, he replied. You were the first person who saw me without asking why I wasn't smiling. They sat in the glow of a single humming bulb, not talking for a while. She sipped broth. He wiped his hand slowly, folding the napkin into a square. Then, as they stood to leave, he asked, would you let me walk you home? She looked at him, not startled, not hesitant. Just measured. Only if you promise not to fix the silence. He nodded. I'll carry it with you. Ayana lived in a third-floor walk-up with uneven floors and walls that remembered too many winters. The power had returned, but she left the lights off. Daichi stood at the doorway, hesitant. Not afraid, just aware. Come in, she said. Shoes off. He stepped inside, obeyed the ritual. Placed his loafers neatly by the door. Her apartment smelled like jasmine and old pages. A single bookshelf leaned near the couch, stacked unevenly with translated poetry, language guides, and a faded black-and-white photo in a simple frame. She saw him glance at the picture. My father, she said. Military. Stationed in Okinawa before I was born. He turned to her. That's why you studied? She nodded. He didn't teach me the language. Said it wasn't necessary. That people here wouldn't care. A pause. But I cared. She poured tea, genmaicha, and handed him a chipped cup. No ceremony. No apology. He died when I was 12, she said. Daichi didn't speak. She didn't need him to. I used to sit with a pocket dictionary and try to translate his old letters. Half of them were technical, deployments, logistics. But the ones to my mom. She trailed off. Then, they were soft. He wrote like someone who only knew how to be gentle when he was far away. Daichi sipped his tea. My wife and I didn't speak the same emotional language, he said. Ayana looked over. She loved quiet things. Plants. Poetry. I loved solving problems. I thought efficiency could replace intimacy. He placed the cup down. When she got sick, I tried to manage it, like a project. You couldn't fix her, Ayana said softly. I never even learned how to sit beside her in silence. She reached for the photo frame. Held it in her lap. My dad always said I'd have to work twice as hard to be half as seen. She looked up. Turns out, he was right. But not just because I'm black. Because I'm me. Daichi's brow furrowed. Meaning. I'm smart. Soft-spoken. I love languages. I memorize tiny details. And for most of my life, people have either underestimated me or taken from me. A beat passed. Until you didn't. The rain outside returned in a hush. He stood and walked toward her small bookshelf. Picked up one of the Japanese poetry books. Flipped to a dog-eared page. Read quietly. You left footprints on a road I never walked, but still I follow. He closed the book gently. Did you mark this? He asked. She nodded once. He placed it back. I followed someone once, he said. Then I lost her. Ayana stood. They faced each other in the soft dark. She didn't touch him. He didn't reach for her. But there was no space between them that wasn't honest now. Why are you still here? She asked. I don't know how to go back to being unseen, he answered. He began showing up before she clocked in. Not to be served. Just to wait. Sometimes he'd bring a book, always in Japanese. Other times, nothing at all. Just him, watching the morning rush with a calm that didn't need announcing. She started bringing extra bento from home. No labels, no apology. He'd take it with both hands, bow slightly, and say, "Ita de kamasu." The other staff didn't ask anymore. They'd glance. Shrug. Go back to complaining about the tips. Ayana didn't explain. She didn't owe anyone her story. One afternoon, she found him outside the diner, arms crossed, staring at a mural across the street. She stepped beside him. He didn't look over. "Why that one?" she asked. He pointed at the kanji scrawled near the bottom corner. "To return home." "It's missing the subject," she said. He nodded. "That's why I like it." They walked through Chinatown later that week. He let her lead. She guided him to a quiet bookstore tucked between two lantern shops. She knew the owner. Spoke Cantonese while Daichi waited respectfully. When they left, she handed him a paperback wrapped in brown paper. "For you." He raised an eyebrow. "Occasion?" "No occasion," she said. "You don't need to earn things here." He held the book to his chest. Like it meant something. Because it did. One night, they stood in her kitchen folding gyoza. His sleeves rolled up. Her music playing low. The world quiet outside. He folded slowly, messily. She corrected his edges without laughing. "You're a patient teacher," he said. "You're not used to learning," she replied. He glanced at her. She added, "From someone who wasn't paid to flatter you." His hands stopped. Then slowly, he nodded. He didn't kiss her that night. Didn't ask. But when he left, he looked over his shoulder and said, "I don't feel cold around you." She watched him walk away without saying anything. But the smile on her face lasted past midnight. Days later, she brought him to the memorial wall, a local corner where people left notes, prayers, folded cranes. She reached into her coat, pulled out a small piece of paper. On it she wrote, "I forgive the girl I was when I kept trying to be smaller." Then folded it, pressed it gently into the wall. He read it silently. Then asked, "Would it be all right if I left something too?" She nodded. He pulled a coin from his pocket. Silver. Worn. Japanese yen. Pressed it next to her note. "No words?" she asked. He shook his head. "I said enough for a lifetime. Now I want to listen." They sat on the curb after. Neither spoke for a while. He offered her a piece of mochi from his coat pocket. She laughed. "You carry sweets now?" "Only when I hope to share them." She took a bite. He smiled softly. For the first time in months, he didn't check his phone when it buzzed. For the first time in years, she let someone sit beside her without bracing for disappointment. It started with a newspaper. Folded neatly on the edge of a booth. Left behind by a customer. Ayana didn't notice it until her shift ended. She sat down to rest, stretched her legs, reached for something to fidget with. Then paused. Front page. English headline. Japanese tech mogul officially steps down amidst scandal cover-up allegations. Daichi's photo below. Stoic. Controlled. The man she knew, only colder. Edited. Framed. She walked to the alley behind the diner. Dialed his number. He answered on the first ring. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" A pause. Then, "Tell you what?" "Why you're really here." Silence stretched too long. Then, "I didn't think it mattered anymore." She swallowed. "I wasn't a secret," she said. "No," he said. "You were a sanctuary. But you didn't think I deserved the truth. I thought I'd lose what we had if I brought the past in." She exhaled sharply. "You mean your reputation?" "I mean the mess," he said. "The lawsuits. The headlines. The weight." She didn't raise her voice. But every word hit like a closing door. "I'm not afraid of your weight, Daichi. I'm afraid of your silence." He arrived at her apartment that night. Knocked once. Waited. She opened the door slowly. He looked tired. No umbrella. Rain soaking into his collar. He held out the newspaper. "I thought if I kept you out of this, you wouldn't leave." She didn't take it. "You didn't protect me. You just withheld the pieces I could have held with you." A beat. "You said you wanted to listen." "I do." "Then hear this. I don't need to be protected. I need to be trusted." He nodded once. No argument. Then turned to leave. She watched him go. Didn't call him back. Didn't cry. Just closed the door gently. That night, she pulled the old poetry book off the shelf. Opened to the dog-eared page. "You left footprints on a road I never walked, but still I follow." She underlined it. then shut the book. Across the city, Daichi sat in a hotel room that felt nothing like her apartment. He held the brown paper, wrapped novel she gave him. Unwrapped it slowly. Inside, Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. Tucked between the pages, a note. You don't need to speak perfectly to be understood. But you do need to speak. He stared at it for a long time. Then turned off the lights. Didn't sleep. Just sat in the dark, alone with the echo of the truth he was too late to give her. The diner felt louder without him. Ayana worked her shift in silence. No music, no scribbled kanji, no quiet glances toward the door. Only routine. But the booth stayed empty. For 2 days. Then 3. She walked home past the mural that once made him pause. Still missing its subject. Still waiting. That night, she opened her laptop. Not to scroll. Not to type. Just to stare at the blank document. Eventually, she wrote one sentence. He didn't lie to hurt me, he lied to stay in my light. She didn't hit save. Just let the screen fade to black. Across the city, Daichi stood at the Riverwalk, blazer clutched in one hand. The wind pulled at his shirt. The city behind him hummed, uncaring. He opened his phone. Scrolls. Stops. An unsent draft. To her. I never needed you to understand me. I needed to believe someone could. He deleted it. Typed something else. Shorter. Then hesitated. Then hit send. Her phone buzzed at 2:14 a.m. She rolled over. Lit screen. One message. Can I come back, not to be forgiven, but to be honest? She stared at it for a long time. Didn't reply. Didn't sleep. By morning, she brewed tea. Set 2 cups out. Just in case. Then took one away. Just hers. For now. She didn't go to the diner. She went to the memorial wall. This time, no paper. Just presents. She ran her fingers across her old note. Then whispered. I still want to be seen. Daichi waited outside her building. Didn't text again. Didn't knock. Just waited. She walked up from behind, umbrella in hand, and stopped beside him. He didn't turn. She said, You didn't give up. He replied, I finally understood what staying means. They stood side by side in the rain. Not facing each other. Not touching. But neither walked away. What matters more, honesty after hurt, or safety after silence? If you were her, would you open the door again? Let us know in the comments. They stood in the rain a while longer. Neither moved. Finally, Ayana said, I'm not asking you to fix it. I won't try to, Daichi replied. I'm not promising anything. I'm not expecting it. She looked at him, really looked. Soaked blazer. Wrinkled shirt. Eyes that didn't dodge. Just stayed. She turned and walked to the door. Left it open behind her. He followed, slow, no words. Inside, she poured tea without asking. 2 cups. Quiet ritual. Same chipped mugs. Same genmeika. But everything different. They sat across from each other at the small table. Steam between them. The silence was no longer heavy. It was full. She asked, Why come back? I didn't want to be the man who vanished when it got real. And now? I want to learn how to stay when I feel unworthy. She nodded. Then said, Say it. He didn't ask what. He knew. He breathed in, then gave it, not polished, not performed. The scandal, it wasn't just business. I let something fall apart because I was ashamed to ask for help. I thought protecting people meant hiding the damage. He paused. But you made me want to live outside the edit. Ayana's hands wrapped around the cup. Warmth in her palms. Tension gone from her shoulders. She said, I never wanted your past to vanish. I just wanted a place in your present. You have it, he said. Whatever it looks like. However long it lasts. She held his eyes. Then took a slow sip. They went for a walk that night. The city quiet. The mural ahead. Still missing a subject. Ayana reached into her coat, pulled out a marker. No hesitation. She wrote one word beside it. Me. Home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a choice. Weeks passed. He didn't move in. She didn't ask. He stayed at a nearby apartment. Started learning to cook simple meals. Bought a bicycle. Taught her new kanji. She taught him how to say be gentle without flinching. He made mistakes. She corrected them, not with criticism, but with care. The booth at the diner stayed empty. Not because he was gone, but because some places are only sacred when you leave them behind. She applied for a language program that summer. Got accepted to teach English in Kyoto. He smiled when she told him. Said, if you go, I'll visit. She raised a brow. Just visit. I'm learning to follow, he said. Not lead. On her last shift, the diner felt different. Customers laughed louder. The coffee didn't burn. And on the counter, a folded note with crisp handwriting. You were never invisible. The world just wasn't fluent enough to read you. No signature. But she knew. At the airport, she waited at the gate alone. Until she heard it, footsteps, steady, familiar. Daichi, holding a book. The one she gave him. He handed it to her. Inside, another note. You don't have to choose between flying and being held. I'll see you soon. She tucked the note into her passport. Boarded the plane. What does it take to build trust again? Not from scratch, but from scars. If someone reached for you with truth instead of perfection, would you open the door? Tell us in the comments. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.